Hello, and welcome to the Liquidity event. We're your hosts, AJ.
And Shane.
This is episode 62, being recorded on October 5th. We will air this on October 7th. We've got some fun stuff on the docket today. We'll be talking about why politicians think the IRS wants to kill you. We've got an update on the Ice Bucket Challenge. Our friend Kim Kardashian has to pay 7 figures for telling investors to invest in crypto and not disclosing the fact that she was paid to make that recommendation. And then we've got some updates on some electric vehicle wars between Ford and General Motors, amongst other things that I'm sure we will get to. How you doing, Shane?
I'm a little light on sleep today, AJ.
Why is that?
I watched a spooky movie last night.
Oh, no.
Something you never do anymore? When's the last time you watched a horror movie?
Last time I watched a horror movie, I can tell you exactly. It was at, I can't remember her last name. Her name was Amy. She was a friend in high school. It was The Ring. And I didn't sleep for 2.5 years after that. So that was the last time.
Yeah, I always try to update you on horror movies, and I can't share the passion with you because you refuse to watch them.
You know, it's funny. I like to read summaries of horror movies. Like, I like to read the description and know the plot. Like, I'm interested. It's funny because I love film and I'm interested in the aesthetics of film, and I know a lot of people love horror movies for that reason. I just am a scaredy cat, and I literally will ruin my life if I accidentally watch a scary movie.
Yes. Well, yes. My last night was ruined for sure. I'm running up maybe 3 hours of sleep after watching Smile, which is like a mix-up of The Ring and It Follows. And yeah, the premise is it's very scary. That's all I'll say. It's very scary movie.
Noted.
Surprisingly good as well. I thought it was going to be cheesy.
Put it on my do not watch list, not my watch list.
Yes, exactly. How are you doing, AJ?
I'm doing good. I'm getting ready to do some traveling. I'm heading to Los Angeles, Denver, Palm Springs, and Chicago in the next 2 weeks. So I've got to racking up those Delta miles. Hello, Delta. If you're listening, I'd love to be considered for your Delta 360 program.
Yeah, that's how it gets done for sure. Delta.
I'm sorry.
Tag Delta.
I'm absolutely going to tag Delta 360. For those not in the know, Delta 360 is apparently the secret Delta status above Diamond. The requirements are somewhat unknown, and I want it.
Invitation only.
Yeah, I want it. So I'm traveling. What are you doing for fun?
Oh, I'm in Mexico. I'm in Mexico City right now looking for my apartment for the winter. I've been apartment touring after hours the past week. I've looked at 3 or 4 apartments. It's pretty fun.
¿Quieres un apartamento?
Sí, quisiera un apartamento, por favor. Yeah, so it's fun to try to speak in broken Spanish to real estate agents and explain that it's only going to be for 6 months, not a full year. I have a dog. I don't have permanent residency status, but I'm willing to pay upfront for all 6 months. And,
so you're showing up with a suitcase full of cash and saying, por favor.
Por favor.
Got it.
Tengo mucho dinero para ti. Yeah, see. Yeah,
I'm willing to overpay if you don't ask any questions. Got it.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're used to it at this point. There's been a lot of articles about Mexico City being overrun with gringos. And here we are, the lifetime gentrifier, back at it again. I've been gentrifying town since 1994 when my family moved to Mississippi for the casino, when the casinos opened.
Oh, I thought of you the other day. I have a question for you. I was in New Orleans, which is a great town, by the way.
You should think of me when you're in New Orleans.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the reason. I walked by a casino and I learned something
Harris.
What's that? Harris? I walked by Harris?
You walk by Harris.
I walked by Harris. Is that the only casino in New Orleans?
Yes, they have a monopoly on the casino game.
Okay.
In,
good to know.
Yeah.
This is why I thought of you.
I think there's some riverboats on the Mississippi, but no, Harris is the only.
Right.
Yeah.
So I learned one thing, and then I have a follow-up question. So one thing I learned is that my husband potentially has a gambling problem, because I was like, let's go in. It'll be fun. And he's like, no, we cannot go in there. So that was fun.
Well, I know he has a video game addiction.
He has
Right?
That's exactly what he said. Exactly what he said. He's like, you know why we don't have video games at home? Because I love video games. And he's like, I also love casinos, so we are not going in there. No, you cannot go in there and throw $20 at a slot machine. Anyways, second question. Casinos typically, it is my impression and my experience that you walk into a casino, smoke in the air, can be kind of depressing. Where do you go? I know there's high roller secret rooms, but are there really nice, boutique hipster casinos that you can go to? Like, is that a thing, or are they all just so regulated and chained up at this point that they're like, it's either like you're in with everybody and it can be depressing, or you're minimum bet $200K and you're in the back room with, Kanye West and sports people.
So, yeah, I mean, there are different brands of casinos. Like there is like the W Hotel or like the Ace Hotel of casinos.
Okay.
Like especially in Las Vegas where there's like over 50
What's
casinos.
the Ace Hotel of casinos?
I don't know what it is. I bet it's in Macau. Yeah, but yeah, I've been in a lot of high roller rooms just because I grew up in casinos with my dad. For those of you that don't know, my dad worked in casinos for over 30 years and I essentially grew up in them. And the high roller room, I think, is obviously where you want to be. Unfortunately, you have to spend a lot of money to get into the high roller room. Like I was betting $500 a hand in Harrah's last time I was there, and I was not in the high roller room.
Right. So, like high, like so true. Yeah, I have like no interest.
Over $1,000, maybe $5,000 a hand in blackjack. They also have it for slots too, and yeah, it's way too expensive. If you are in the high roller room, you have a serious problem. Like your family needs to know about it because you have a serious problem, or you're just so rich that's a small.
It doesn't matter.
We allocate 5% of our clients' portfolios to whatever
you want. Yeah, like, gambling.
Maybe like
sure.
if 1% of your income can go to whatever you want, and that turns into like $50,000 a year, or $100K a year. Sure, yeah, but I don't think casinos, like if you go to the Aria Hotel or the Aria Casino in Las Vegas, it's not very smoky. That's where Engage is, where I went with John, and like we go to that conference every year for
Engage,
CPAs.
the accounting conference. Ooh, fun. Yeah, I think I'm going next year. I'll see you there.
Yeah, well then I think you'll like the Aria. It's very classy and clean.
Cool. Yeah, my experience and interest in gambling is like, yeah, I'll sit at a slot machine for a bit. Like I can like stop. I'm good at that, I think. We'll see. Mm-hmm. We'll see. See you in June.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hope I don't bet the farm. Anyways, that was a fun little
Brook on a 5.
Yeah, exactly.
On the table.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of speaking of shares on the table. We do have an IPO this week. We've got Mobileye filed their S1, which is very cool. Mobileye is a leader in the development of autonomous car software, so self-driving cars. Have you seen any self-driving cars with googly eyes on them driving around?
I've only seen the ones in San Francisco with the insanely
with like the crazy. We saw those.
Spinning.
We saw those together, right? What was that? No, that's the bank. Whatever.
It's Waymo.
Thank you.
Waymo's cars in San Francisco that are completely autonomous and drive on the streets of San Francisco. Yeah. Anyway, I wonder if there's any Mobileye chips in those Waymo cars.
Right, because Mobileye is the chip leader. They're a subsidiary of Intel. This is a significant IPO. We've been seeing some little baby micro cap IPOs, but this is moving and shaking. What are we raising here? What do we say?
They're trying to raise $2.5 billion.
Okay.
Which, if you care about autonomous vehicles, which I do, I think this is great. I love the idea of us moving towards a driverless future. And $2.5 billion of funding into that development is fantastic. Looking at the financials here, I don't think we're going to do a deep dive today, right? But just looking at some of the financials at a high level, they've grown 43% over the last year. They've done $1.5 billion in sales, which is a 43% year-over-year growth. The red flag here, looking at the financials at a high level, is that they're 62x leveraged, which means they've got 60 times. Like you take their earnings from the last year and you multiply it times 62, and that's how much debt.
That's how much they have.
On the books.
But isn't that?
Which means it's going to take 62 years, everything being equal, and pumping all of the profits into their debt payments to pay it off, which obviously isn't going to be the case. But
isn't that? I mean, that's kind of par for the course, though, in a R&D heavy industry like self-driving cars or electric vehicles, which we'll talk about a little. Like we saw that with Rivian, which was a huge IPO, which has plans to be profitable in 15 years or something. Like it's like, we got to spend a lot of money because we're building game-changing technology. It's not exactly like a software. It's not like a software company where your startup costs are like a couple smart people in a room with fast computing power. Like there's significant startup costs here.
Yeah, well, their debt is $3.5 billion. So if they raise $2.5 billion and put all that towards the debt, which they shouldn't do, then
Right.
obviously that leverage will be not as bad. And their EBITDA is up, or their earnings is up 150%, which is even way more than just their sales growth. So they're not only are they growing their sales, but the bottom line is seeing scale. So that's probably why they're going to go public in this hectic 2022 IPO market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish them the best. I hope this. Yeah, hope it goes.
I'm done driving, so let's hurry this up.
Same,
please.
honestly. Same. I was trying to make plans for this weekend in Los Angeles with a friend, and they were like, meet me here. Like, oh, you don't have a car? That sucks. I'm like, no, it doesn't suck. Like, I am happy to pay a premium. I feel very lucky to be in a position where I can pay a premium to have someone drive me across town, sit in traffic while I can read a book or get work done or call my business partner and complain about everything in my life.
Indeed.
So with that said, Shane, I need Friday afternoon from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. West Coast time blocked off on your calendar, please.
What's that?
I'll be stuck in traffic and I have something to tell you about.
Oh, okay. I was going to do a segue where I try to sell my Subaru Outback before I move to Mexico.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
Got $13K laying around. I've got a beautiful...
Speaking of self-driving cars.
Okay, joking aside, speaking of raising money, we've got a feel-good story here from the ALS Challenge. Do you want to lead us off on what's going on here?
Sure. I'd like to turn this feel-good story into a rant, but yes. Remember the ice bucket? Remember the ice bucket challenge? It was way back in 2014, in a land before time, before COVID. Ice bucket challenge. If you remember in the early days of viral videos, viral memes, was that you would pour a bucket of ice water on your head as a challenge in order to raise money for ALS research. ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, and apparently, all those memes, all those viral videos did a whole lot of good because $2.2 million was raised for the ALS Association. And in fact, that went directly into research. And we have a new drug that's actually effective in treating ALS. It was approved by the FDA this week. So that's great. Something good. What's your take on this?
Oh, I love it. I didn't really get it back then. I think that was back when we were really grinding away to build Brooklyn on Fire, like
in 2014. No, you and I were doing our shitty day jobs and partying at
night. Well, that was when I was doing my taxes on the side. So this is what I think was what I was referencing there. My take on this is less fun. First of all, they got this awesome article about the original people that got involved. It's unfortunate that you get ALS. It's a crippling syndrome, of course. It freezes up all your nerves. And as close friends with other people that suffer with MLS, this is a terrifying disease that needs a lot of attention. And I'm glad it got this amount of attention. I think that drug received millions of dollars, but there was also like over $50 million raised over the years related to this challenge, which is awesome.
Right, just awareness, right? It's like, what is this? Like, oh, I saw this dumb video. Like, let me Google this. Like, oh, I had no idea how common this is. Like, oh yeah, my aunt has, like that kind of. That's what going viral is.
Yeah, and I'm going to take a dark take on this because I was going through some of the old videos, and there was a great one of George Bush actually participating in the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Oh, W?
And he's W, yes, of course. And he's like, it's not very presidential for a bucket of ice water to be poured on me, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to write the check. And then Laura runs up and like Gatorade, it's like head coaches him with the ice water, which was really funny. And I was laughing, and he challenged Bill Clinton, and I was like, wait a second, George fucking Bush, small government guy that started the Iraq war, is cutting checks for AL. How about we just fund it with government money? And then it got me thinking, how much was the Iraq war? And then Brown University puts the Iraq-Afghanistan wars at $8 trillion. It's like, I find it so ironic that we are responsible as ordinary citizens for raising money to help each other instead of the government, because the Republicans pushing $8 trillion into oil wars. So,
right.
Sorry, that's my other take on the state of charitable contributions in America.
Yeah, I had a similar thought, which is, it's up to, not only is it up to billionaires who aren't paying enough in taxes to decide which organizations get funding. It's up to us as ordinary citizens to fund causes to help our friends and family members who are dying of diseases that, aren't. It's not like, oh, it's curable. It's not like polio, which we have a vaccine for, but it sounds like with a bunch of money, we can make pretty significant strides in research here, which we're not doing. It's up to the viral meme folks to come up with a silly thing. Like,
I don't want to look up the National Health Institute's budget. It's really going to piss me off.
Yeah, don't do that.
But speaking of funny government budgets,
oh my God. Oh, wait, sorry. quick side note before we move on. We're changing up the way we do the podcast slightly, mostly from our end. Listeners won't really notice, but we're calling our big stories, our lead stories, spicy meatballs. So we're going to do our big spicy meatballs. These are stories that we really want to talk about. And then we'll trickle down. We found that we spent a lot of time talking about billionaires and we actually never get to the investing in tax articles that we want to talk about. So with that, speaking of taxes, sorry, that was a bad segue. You had a better segue?
Well, yeah, let's talk about government funding. Speaking of government funding to achieve results that we want from our government.
Speaking of spicy meatballs.
Yes, I mean, we've talked about the government or the the Build Back Better substitute, wherein we got $80 billion.
Oh, the IRA
funding for
the Inflation Reduction Act.
There it is. Thank you. I forgot.
The IRA. You forgot that acronym. So weird.
Damn it! I still think of the Irish Republican Army when I.
Oh, of course. I mean, I call our company, which is an RIA, or Registered Investment Advisor, an IRA all the time. And Bear's like, it's just like a weird thing. Yeah. I was also talking to someone today who was like, "Oh yeah, I got to get a 501c3 set up for my kids," and I was like, he meant 529 plan. I wasn't going to correct him because it's like a dumb, like the IRS or whoever Congress names things after the tax code. Like, come up with better names. Anyway, speaking of Congress and being dumb.
Yes. So Bloomberg Tax has this great editorial or op-ed from Charles Rosati. For those of you that don't know, was a former IRS commissioner. For those of you that don't keep up with the former IRS commissioners throughout the years.
Charlie. Love Charlie.
Yeah. One of the best, truly the GOAT of IRS commissioner, wrote this great article called Sense and Nonsense about the IRS's funding increase from Congress, which was posted at 3:45 a.m., funny enough, on September 16th.
Charlie anyway, up at night, hitting the deadline.
Like a true CPA, working at 3:30 in the morning on September 16th. So he just wanted to clear the air about what this money is going to be used for and wanted to rebut some of his Republican or anti-IRS, anti-big government politicians' thoughts and comments about this funding. And this is some of the I'll do the less fun stuff. Do you want to talk? You want to read some of these politicians' responses to
I would love to. Yeah. So basically, in the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, there's 10 years of funding for the IRS, much needed as accountants in the profession, desperately needed. So we've got some of our Republican senators saying things like, hiring 87,000 new IRS agents is supposed to be for the rich, blah, blah, blah. If you think the federal government is out of control now, God help us when you get 87,000 new IRS agents who are looking under every rock and stone to get money out of your pocket. So that was one thing. But the best thing...
That's from Senator Lindsey Graham.
From Senator Lindsey Graham.
Currently being subpoenaed. Who's
currently needs to be audited, by the way. IRS, if you're not on that, please. But I think the one that takes the cake is Senator Rick Scott, a Republican from Florida. Says he urged people not to join the IRS. You not only need to be ready to audit and investigate your fellow hardworking Americans, your neighbors and friends, you need to be ready. You need to be ready, and to use the IRS's words, willing to kill them. So
incredible.
So Rick Scott is saying to be an IRS, to go work for the IRS, you have to be willing to kill your friends. Is the TLDR on that one?
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Senator Rick Scott is definitely running for president in 2024, which means that you have to appeal to the farthest right in Iowa. You have to appear the most crazy because that works so well. And I forget what plan he released recently. I think it was a plan to abolish. I think it was all laws in the United States to start over from scratch.
Start over
was from just to start from scratch was one of his plans. It was something similar to that. So we'll do a little bit of a deep dive on what they're talking about here, what the money is for. First of all,
I just have a question.
What's that?
Reaching across the aisle, like, we think these people are crazy. These people think we're crazy. Like, what is the single most important book that you would make a person like Rick Scott read and have to sit there and read and internalize that you think would help him the most understand your side of things as a person?
Probably fiction. I mean, I don't feel like Republicans read any fiction. Is my take on it, which has a lot to do with empathy, which is often what's missing from their worldview. And that, I don't mean to paint with such a broad brush, but when you say things like that, like there's the rhetoric of, I don't know. I mean, it's politics, and like unfortunately, we don't have a ranked choice voting system here, so you just have to appear as crazy as possible because we have a winner take all system, and just due to the culture wars that we have in 2022, this is what works. And I understand, like, if you're ambitious, and there's only, it only takes 15 people to run for president to be the most crazy out of 300 million people, and this is what you get. You mix the rules that you need to play by to win these elections, and you mix that up with a lot of ambition and intelligence, and this is the result. I think it's all a function and a result of incentives. So I honestly don't blame them, and I don't want to tell him to go read, some William Faulkner, but whatever. What's your recommendation?
Okay, so I have two. I was thinking as you were talking, I asked you first because I wanted time to think about my answer. And the answer would be children's books. Two recommendations. One, The Giving Tree. And the second one would be, I think it's called I Love You Forever. And it's this really sweet parable. It's got this rhyming thing throughout it that goes love you forever. I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby will be. And it's a similar message to The Giving Tree. And it's about a little baby going through his entire life, growing into a man, growing into an old man, the mother taking care of him, and then him coming back to take care of his, dying 87-year-old mother. And it's just a beautiful parable about be kind to your fellow person, because that's just a good thing to do and everyone will have a better experience. So that's my recommendation.
We send a lot of books out to clients here at Brooklyn FI. Why don't we send a copy of The Giving Tree over to Senator Rick Scott's office? See if you can impact him.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
Article. Yeah, no, I dig it. There's a couple things that I've heard from people I argue with on the internet about this, about this bill and how it's going to impact people. And one of the items that people are worried about is the additional agents auditing people. People are worried about being audited. For those of you that don't know, the most audits by number do go to the lowest income taxpayers via the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is a form of welfare. The whole purpose of this administration's raising money and tax policy is to tax those with more than $400,000 of income and above, which is intended to not scare people that make less than that, but it freaks out people making $60,000 for some reason. And they're trying to tell us that all these audits will just be for low-income people that are just W-2, hardworking, union members in steel plants. That's not.
But what's so ironic though is if you make $60,000 working for a factory, you get a W-2. There's nothing to audit.
There's nothing to audit.
There's tax, there you have income. There's it's business owners that should get audited. It's people with large capital gains or large capital losses that should get audited. That's where there's room for creativity. There's no room for creativity on a tax return where you have a W-2. That information, the IRS already has that information. So don't worry.
Right.
If you get audited, it's fine.
And also there's if you've got nothing to worry about, then if you've got nothing to hide, then what do you worry about? And that is often used when it comes to policing minority neighborhoods. So fun for people in Republican enclaves to be worried about being audited. And also this amount of money, this $80 billion will supposedly only raise $300 billion, which is only 5% of the quote unquote tax gap. It's the money that's not collected due to cheating.
Mm-hmm.
And 80% of the $1 trillion of income that's related to is from tax-paying, from pass-through entities, aka business owners, is from taxpayers making over $400,000. So this is all intended to actually have the money to go after people that misreport their income due to business income. And it's 80% of that type of income comes from people making over 400K. So when it comes to a cost-benefit analysis, the IRS it doesn't make any sense for them to raise they can't raise money from Joe Schmuck that's making 60K. I'm sorry.
Joe Schmo makes 60K. Joe Schmuck makes 450K.
Right. So it's people that can afford accountants to defend themselves that will be responding to these IRS agents anyway.
I mean, look, you guys, this money it's for operational expenses. I think Shane, you put this quote in here, that the largest bank, JP Morgan, which serves only 20% of the number of customers that the IRS has an operating budget almost 6 times as large as the IRS. Like, what is an operating budget going to be used for? Like, hey, are any of you waiting for refunds that you were due, or waiting for a response to a letter? And maybe it's been 6 months, or maybe it's been a year, or maybe it's been 2 years. Like, that's literally just to upgrade their computers to help serve you, the taxpayer. Like, this does help more people than it harms. And this fear mongering it's trash, is what it is.
Yeah. Some other things about the agents that they're hiring. I mean, the IRS has not only dropped the amount of agents over the past 35 years due to budget cuts, but it's also there's a lot more to deal with. Like, all of the stimulus checks ran through the IRS this year. For anyone that filed a tax return in 2021, you know that you had to figure out how much you...
Why don't we call them helpers instead of agents? Let's rebrand them. An agent makes me think of Men in Black, right? Like, not good. Or Matrix. Like, let's call them helpers.
Yeah. And for those people worried that like this money is going to be spent, aka like terrible spending, like Republicans are over saying that the government is a terrible spender of money and can't feed the beast. We're going to raise $300 billion. This is the sales department of your government. And this sales department goes out and collects money from people that are cheating and not contributing to the pot, so to speak. If there was, they're cheating. I mean, we all have a responsibility, and they're not contributing. These people are going out to get it. They're not coming after your union benefits.
Indeed.
And then the last two paragraphs are about interacting with taxpayers. If you're trying to call the IRS, if anyone's trying to call the IRS over the past 2 years, then you know that we need more agents to answer the phone and improving technology.
More helpers to answer the phone.
There we go, helpers. And in terms of improving technology, they're still running on, I think we talked about this in prior episodes about how they have super old tickler desks, and I forget the names of those old machines that they use to open up. Like
they literally invented the tickler. I think it was, like, it tickles the forms to make sure they don't get eaten in the printer.
It's enough IRS talk for one day.
Speaking of tickler.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of ticklers.
This article tickles my fancy.
Sure does. Kim Kardashian has been ordered to pay $1.25 million to settle SEC charges over her promotion of a crypto token. And she did not disclose that she was paid to advertise this token. So a lot of celebrities have been paid handsomely to endorse various crypto platforms or tokens. Matt Damon famously did that wacky Super Bowl commercial. So he has not gotten in trouble yet. He's gotten a lot of criticism.
Nor Larry David. But because they were specifically participating in an advertisement, the implication was that consumers knew it was an ad. Whereas in Kim's situation, I think she said something like, hey, I'm just letting you guys know what my friends told me, which was a little bit misleading. That's the SEC's argument. You've got a tweet here from the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, calling celebrities out. It's actually a fire tweet.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's not so much the actual tweet, because that's obviously written by the PR department of the SEC, which apparently has a good budget as opposed to the IRS.
Oh, yeah, great budget.
The video attached to this tweet is like one of the best TikTok videos I've ever seen. And it's actually funny, and it's got it's just saying that just because celebrities are really good at, let's say, performing in front of large crowds, and it's got like some guy doing crazy dances in a large crowd, it's like, or they're really good at sports, and it's got a dude dunking, doesn't mean that they know anything about investing. It's like,
right. Wait, quick point before we wrap up. So Gary Gensler has 250,000 followers on Twitter. Kim Kardashian has $73 million. I'm sorry, 73 million followers. Instead of paying the fine, she should just use her platform to educate investors about how to evaluate investments. Anyway, that's my lukewarm take. I know you think I am an idealist. It's okay. We need more of me in this world. Thank you for listening to the Liquidity Event. You've been a fabulous audience. You can always email us at liquidityevent@brooklynfi.com. You can always leave us a review if you want to be weird about it. You can find the show notes at brooklynfi.com/episode 62. We will see you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.